Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Completed It. Yes, I'm your host Andy Burrows, and as you can see, one of my illustrious co-hosts is here in the top left-hand side of your screens. It's the Yoda, it's the guru himself of Completed It. Neil, happy Friday, sir. We're doing it on a Friday for once. How are you, brother?
Yes, I am good. I am good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, my man. I'm good, my man. I'm enjoying a day off work, so we had an opportunity to do some podcasting, so let's do it. As you can see, everyone watching on YouTube, we have a very special guest of us today. For those of you that have been anywhere recently, you've seen us talking about the brand new smash hit show, Star Trek StarFleet Academy. Now we get into it and we go backwards and forwards, but what better way to get into it and speak to someone who actually wrote the show? Joining us today, I'm very honored to say, is Eric Glover, who wrote Starfleet Academy. Eric, how are you, brother? Welcome to Completed It.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I'm doing okay out here. The state of the world is terrible, but being on podcast with fellow nerds goes a long way.
This is why we love doing what we do, Eric. Eric, it's out. It's out in the world. It's something that's been wanted from Star Trek fans for years and years and years. Starfleet Academy has been spoken about, has been mentioned, has been seen on movies, on TV shows, whether it be Star Trek Next Generations, whether it be Voyager, whether it be Deep Space Nine, whether it be Discovery. It's been mentioned.
Mhm.
Everyone's like, well, we would like a show, please, about Starfleet Academy. Here we are now in 2026, and we have a show that you have written. Starfleet Academy has hit our screens on Paramount Plus. Just tell us what that feeling is like, Eric, when they approach you and go, "Hey, Eric, it's this little project we would like you to do. It's called Star Trek and Starfleet Academy, and we'd like you to write it for us." Just tell us what that feeling was like when you got approached to do such. It's one of if not the biggest franchises in sci-fi world, in TV world, in movie world. We talk about this all the time. We've spoke to
Mhm.
people from the world of Superman and Star Wars, these big franchises. When they come to you and said, Eric, we'd like you to write Starfleet Academy, just tell us your reaction, my friend.
I was pleasantly surprised. The person who came to me is Noga Landau. She was a co-showrunner on season one of the show. She had run a series called Nancy Drew on the CW,
Mhm.
and I met her because I was on a CW spinoff of that show called Tom Swift. So I was touched that she remembered me from that show. There was no guarantee that she and I were going to be able to work together again. And she told me that she wanted me to work on that show after she got hired as a co-showrunner because she wasn't much of a Trekkie herself. She had thrown herself into it after, I suppose, making a pitch to Alex Kurtzman about why she would be the best candidate to be a co-showrunner. And she just brought me along with her. So I was
Mhm.
extremely honored that she wanted me, even though our Tom Swift days were over. And as to the IP of it all, oh my God, I wasn't more than a casual Trek fan. I had seen the 2009 Chris Pine Kelvin universe stuff. But I didn't feel like I knew enough about it to really honor the entirety of this world in a way that other people who are Trek fans might have. She assured me that I didn't have to be the expert in the room, that I should just come with my pitches, watch certain episodes of certain Trek. I didn't have to watch like hundreds of hours in order to get acquainted. Um, but all that said, even though I felt like a new kid and I felt so honored that she was bringing me along, um, it was also just so exciting to be part of something that I knew was a universe people really, really deeply cared about. I I knew that even watching the first Chris Pine movie, that when there was that time jump of 3 years later after Chris Pine signed up for Starfleet Academy, and we skipped Starfleet Academy, I was like, that's what I wanted to know about. So when she told me that that's what we'd be exploring, it felt like a ripe opportunity. Even me, even someone who didn't know everything there was to know, knew that Starfleet Academy was significant, and I just felt so excited to get started with her.
Eric, when you get approached to do something like Star Trek and you're sitting down and you're like, right, I need to write episodes, I'm writing for Star Trek. How much of that plays on your mind that you, as a writer, we've been very fortunate. We've spoke to a few guys and girls that have written. We spoke to someone that worked on Star Trek Voyager, and when I asked this question, he was like, "I get it. Does the weight of the franchise play on your mind, or is it something that you've completely got to like just scrape from your memory and be like, hey, look, I'm here to do this job? Because if someone said to me, hey, you're going to write Star Trek, or hey, we want you to be part of the next Superman movie, I'd be a quivering wreck, Eric. I'm not going to lie to you. What is that like as just as a writer? Because like you say, you didn't grow up with the Star Trek. You weren't, full on in the franchise. And I think that in a way that's a good way because you've come in with a clear vision and clear views. But when you are, I say old school, pen to paper, when you're on your laptop, what is it like for you? Does that weigh on your mind that you're, hey, I'm writing something that this is beloved for 60 years now? How does that play on you?
There is a weight to it, but if you'll bear with me in trying to articulate this, it was a positive weight. I knew that a lot of people cared. I knew I would do my best. Um, and also, I knew that there were plenty of people in the room to catch me if
Mhm.
I didn't make the kind of pitch that honored Star Trek properly. So it felt like there was just kind of a shield around me with these people who were either knowledgeable about the Trek franchise in general or extremely good writers. And between those two qualities of people in the room, I felt safe. But the other reason that weight, that onus felt positive was because the more I learned about Star Trek, the more excited I got about it. Specifically, the fact that this universe is an aspirational one. Right? We're post scarcity, we're post racism, post sexism, post transphobia, homophobia. It just felt like more and more of an honor, more and more of a thing to be excited to play with, because it's a world that we don't have. Some of us are trying to build that world. Some of us are very much not. Um, and being asked to just stay in this zone of thinking about what the utopian version of conflict is was a blast. I got to do this. It didn't feel like something that scared me because it was so much fun to exist in a world where people are basically ethical, and having to come up with new reasons for people to be in conflict at all when most of their problems are solved was just a unique challenge. So I felt privileged. I did not feel put upon. It was amazing.
Mm. What were some of the biggest challenges writing Star Trek? Because I guess you're under a certain amount of pressure to keep it Star Trek. It's Star Trek.
Yes.
It's what everyone's known for
Yeah.
60 years now. By the way, the intro to the 60 years thing is
Yeah.
incredible.
Oh,
I
yes. I love seeing
I
it too.
freaked out when I saw that. I was like, this is amazing. The inner geek in me just come back. My wife was like, are you okay? I'm like, you don't get it, woman. This is I was like, you don't get what I'm going through right now. But Eric, when you are writing such an iconic show, how do you go from you keeping it Star Trek, but like you said, the world has moved on. When Star Trek first came out 60 years ago to where we are now is a completely different place. I always say this, I could bring back my grandparents now and put them in this universe, in this world, and they'd be like, what on earth is this place? When you're writing such a thing like Star Trek, how did you find keeping it Star Trek but also thinking, hey, we want to move this on a little bit. There's a whole new generation out there that this might
Mhm.
be their first time seeing this franchise. We all done it when we were the next generation was my first real. I know I look old, but I, I wasn't a Captain Kirk wasn't my thing. I didn't grow up with it. Jean-Luc Picard was my thing. Deep Space Nine was my thing. Starfleet Academy is going to be people's things.
Yeah.
When you were writing it, did you think, right, keep this Star Trek, but also let's evolve, let's move on? That might mean taking some risks here and there. How was that process?
Great question. It's extremely relevant to our conversations in the room. We were pretty much across the board, if I remember correctly, really aligned about doing something new. Every time we came up with new ways to, or sorry, every time we came up with ways to tie it back to old stuff, we would basically question whether that was the right thing to do because we had this brand new playground to be in that Star Trek Discovery had provided for us
Mm,
Mhm.
with this time jumped into a new millennium and with fewer restraints on uh, canon. We were in a space that was almost entirely our own. So, we would bring up things like, oh, well, should the Borg be related to anything we're doing? And I think just our conscience in the room would be like, oh, no, this is another opportunity to to play with new things, to boldly go. And we tried to hold ourselves accountable to that. We certainly wanted to keep it Trek when it came to um, the ethics of how people interacted with other characters. We tried to respect that this was essentially a military school, and that even though we had hijinks and pranks and people hooking up, that there was a certain level of discipline that had to be there. We tried to respect canon when it came to like what ships were capable of. We didn't want to veer too far from how Klingons sounded, sure, but ultimately, I think that played out as like surface level stuff. When it came to plotting or like new character dynamics or a new species, that was something that we wanted to lean into, just challenging ourselves to go a little bit
Mhm.
further and dream up new scenarios, even though there's lots of old stuff and Easter eggs that we wanted to pay homage to.
Mm. With the world we live in now, Eric, and you mentioned it at the start of the show, was there any risk in anything that you were doing? Would you say? Was you like, oh, I don't know, like you watch movie, like when they reboot certain things, you're like, oh, I wish they had been like that. That's not like that in the original. And I'm now of the world. Me and Neil and Sash, who also co-hosted, we talk about this all the time. I'm like, the world needs to move on. I love what went on in the 80s, some 80s movies, some 90s movies. I love all that. But there comes a time where you go, let's not park it, but let's move on. Let's give the next generation, let's give the 14, 15, 16 year olds of this generation now, in 20, 30 years' time, they'll be like, oh, I got into Star Trek when it was Starfleet Academy. And, like I said a minute ago, that was us back in the day, whether it be Back to the Future, like the t shirt you've got on there, whether it be Star Trek, Star Wars. Star Wars has been, we won't say rebooted, but given to a new generation. Was there any risks when you were writing this and you were thinking, oh, I don't know how this is going to go down, but hey, look, let's try this. Let's go with it.
I think your question might be most relevant to our conversations about tone in the
Mm,
room. Uh, Starfleet Academy, for the first three episodes that are out at this point, um, we leaned pretty light after the first episode, which is a little bit on the dark and action side.
great episode, by the
Um,
way.
oh, thank you, thank you. Um, that pilot was written by Gaia Violo, and she's a brilliant writer and a wonderful person. But when it came to tone for at least the next couple of episodes, we had some difficult choices to make in terms of just how light to make it.
Hmm.
These are essentially kids who are the main characters outside of Holly Hunter's character, Nala
Hmm.
Aki. Um, and we wanted Star Trek to feel serious and philosophical, and bathed in ethical talks and stuff. But because we have a group of cadets who are coming into their own and haven't really found themselves yet, we wanted there to be room for messiness and mistakes and jokes and ribbing. We wanted to feel a bit like the typical American college experience, if we
Hmm.
could. Um, and that did come with risks. We're used to watching very refined captains and very established members of the crew do their jobs perfectly. Maybe not always, but we tend to respect people on older Star Trek shows because of their competence, and leaning into the incompetence of young adults. It certainly felt like a risky move to me sometimes, especially when we landed on the goofy side. But we just wanted there to be joy with the show, especially just in light of the real world that you keep referring to. Like there's such a stark contrast between what we were trying to pull off in the world that we see every day. That we wanted to make sure that people were laughing a little bit. They could come to
Mm.
our show, of course, to explore profound ideas and to relish in a sense of community that felt sacred. But we also wanted a little bit of irreverence in there too. And
Mm.
although that felt like a risk to me, I mean, I found myself chuckling, even rewatching stuff where I knew the jokes already in late cuts, because we had done the work of trying to make sure that joy was a priority. So even though it was a risk, I think it's one that's paid off.
Oh, most
Yeah,
definitely. Last one
definitely.
from me, because I know Neil's got a couple of questions for you, Eric. We're not going to get into the episode specific because the first three episodes are out. Me and Neil are going to break them down over the weekend and drop our review show. So there's going to be no spoilers here. We're not talking about the actual episodes that are out. Eric, obviously, the first three episodes are out. What is your reaction? As I'm always fascinated when I get to speak to people in TV and film. The first three episodes are out. It's on Paramount Plus. You sit down and watch it. us as the fan, for me, Star Trek and anything like that, I can draw the curtains. No matter, like you just said, whatever's going on in my outside world, we all have jobs, we all have lives, we all have nagging wives. When I put on Star Trek, it's I can just sit down. It's taking me away from the world that we're in now. It's why I love sci-fi. It's why I love these things. And this Starfleet Academy in the first few episodes has done that for me. It's done what I love about Star Trek. It's done what I love about sci-fi. And we hear it all the time doing what we do. Oh, why do you watch this sci-fi stuff? I'm like, I don't think you realize like it's probably the most popular genre outside of maybe horror films across the world. I travel to America a lot. I travel a lot around Europe. I can strike up a conversation if I've got a geeky Star Trek top on, if I've got a Back to the Future top on. When you, as a writer, the first three episodes come out, Eric, what's your reaction sitting there watching it? Are you just overjoyed that, that the product is out there? What's the reaction amongst your friends and family? It just must be, I can never put myself in that headspace of going, I'm watching this on TV. I was part of this. It's what is that like for you now? The first few episodes are out, your work is done, you get to do things like this and chat to us. I mean, what was that like when you just sat down with like your friends, your family, your peers, and went, "Hey, I've done this," because I think to be part of the Star Trek family is nothing short of amazing. What's the reaction been now? The first three episodes are out.
Um, with the first episode in particular, I had the privilege of watching it during the world premiere event here in New York City. We were able to see it on a big screen with a big crowd at the Natural History Museum here. And sitting with a crowd who didn't know it was coming was absolutely electric. And seeing them respond to the jokes, the suspense, the spectacle, which Alex Kurtzman and the amazing production team took care of in spades. I I was floored to just be able to watch that through my own eyes and through the eyes of other people who really wanted a product that made them feel that sense of joy and escape that you're talking about. Um, a complete honor. I mean, being able to sit among my writer friends specifically that night
Mm.
just filled me with a lot of pride. And being there among fans who were just gushing even before the credits rolled, and certainly gushing afterward also felt like an honor. Um, yeah, and watching cuts in general, anytime, even before they came on Paramount Plus, seeing how the actors and the production crew were able to elevate our work as writers. Just,
Mm.
they were able to fill in blanks that we hadn't thought of. They added emotionality that we may not have conceived of in the year plus before shooting went on. Seeing so many capable hands kind of massage this original vision of a particular episode into something that was brighter and more colorful and more impactful than I had necessarily imagined. Uh, that's been something else, man. I've been in this industry maybe 4 or 5 years professionally, and there's nothing like seeing the product of so many people's hard work come together. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wish this thing had changed. I wish this thing had been left in. I mean, as a writer, that's where my brain goes automatically. But overall, it's overwhelmingly positive to see so many people react so strongly and so positively to a show that we put our blood, sweat, and tears into. I don't know if the show or any show I'll be part of will ever be perfect, but to see what people respond to after you nailed some aspect of it, it's
Mm.
intoxicating, man.
What's the reaction like when you've written something and then you see a certain line delivered or you see a joke and when you're writing that you think I hope this delivers, and when you actually see it, when you see the actors and actresses delivering that line that you have thought up and you're there, you've written it, you wrote it down, and then it does deliver. And what's that like for you? Because it's you're on your laptop, you're doodling things, you're writing things, but to get them actually from where you are to literally all the way to production, to being filmed, to being out there into the world. And then what's that reaction like for you? Because you're like, yes, it hit, it worked. What's that feeling like?
You know what? I describe it as gratitude for sure. Being able to see an actor not only understand what we were going for, but sometimes top what we were going for
Mm.
is is miraculous, and it's happened with me on Star Trek. It's happened with me on Tom Swift, my previous show, where the dialogue I wrote was something I was, working hard over, losing sleep over, literally. Um, and to see someone just kind of take the baton and sprint, sometimes without my direct input, sometimes without me being on set to coach them, sometimes having to trust the many people playing the game of telephone between me and the actor or me and the director. When it's pulled off, it's absolutely amazing. It makes me feel once again that the people involved with projects this big are there to catch each other. We have a lot of things that could be lost in translation because there's so many of us pouring so much of our work into these projects. And there's room for things to get lost, but for the most part, it feels like everyone is so desperate to try to be on the same page
Yeah.
that when something is nailed, it feels really earned. I just feel so incredibly grateful that everyone's willing to put in the work to make stuff like this shine in the same way that I'm passionate about it.
Wow, incredible. Neil, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. So it kind of touches onto something that you mentioned before when you were talking about the characters and you were talking about the fact that within Star Trek we're so used to seeing people refined and polished because they've gone through their many years of Starfleet Academy training. But one thing I noticed, because I have watched all the episodes now, and one thing I noticed is that it appears, and maybe this is just because it takes place within the realms of a school. I felt like I was watching a science fiction version of like a almost like a late 80s to early mid 90s like teen drama. Like I felt like I was watching like The Breakfast Club, or I felt like I was watching like the Mighty Ducks films, right? And I wanted to know, what were your non-science fiction or like non kind of Star Trek influences that kind of
Ooh.
pushed you when you were coming up with these episodes as they are?
God, let's see what I'm trying to think of some non-sci-fi stuff, period. 'Cause my brain has been all sci-fi for the past couple of years. But a great question. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen the film Running on Empty. That was a big one for Alex Kurtzman.
Mhm.
He brought it up a lot. He's a really big emotional math guy, and
Mhm.
Running on Empty requires a lot of emotional math. It's a very, very um, dramatic film that's impacted him for decades. And it's a movie about family, and how hard it can be to be part of one. So, although we did have a lot of sci-fi influences, and Alex Kurtzman's a very, very, very geeky sci-fi man, he would try to bring it home to things like that. He would try to bring it home to like family dynamics,
Mhm.
because we have a found family type of vibe that we're going for with the show.
Mhm.
And also, literally, family is baked into
Mhm.
uh, how much conflict there is on the show. I mean, between Caleb and his mom, and we'll see with other
Yeah.
characters what their issues are with family. Um, we just found that to be kind of like a powerful default mode. Like, hey, like when things are getting too complicated or too um, shenanigansy, we tended to bring it back to like, okay, what's going to make us feel the most? And Alex Kurtzman would bring up movies or television shows that had a lot more to do with personal drama than spaceships. Believe it or not.
No, no, that's
Wow.
great. And I guess again, uh, I think my questions would always lean towards like characters and things of that
Sure.
nature.
Yeah.
Is Would you say there's any particular character so far that we've seen through these three episodes that you would say that you really liked putting the words to their mouth, that you like?
Yeah, yeah, there was. Jay Den was my favorite character from the jump. We wrote him to be someone who doesn't stray too far from what you've seen from Klingons
Yeah.
before. But in an earlier draft, I'd say he was a little bit on the softer kitty side. Right now, he pretty much functions as a Klingon who looks and speaks, feels like an adult. Um, but what was kept between versions of him was just this kindness. And he's just
Mhm.
the sweetest person ever, and he wants to help, and um, he doesn't start drama with anybody, and there's
Mhm.
a ton of maturity to him, and he has growth to do. He's growing to do, just like every
Mhm.
other character on there. Uh, but Jaden is the kind of person I would like to be, in that he tries to make the world around him better.
Mhm.
And the world that we've set him in is one that is closer to better than just after the burn.
Yeah.
But it has a ways to go, and he sees room for healing and reconciliation and peace. And having those ideals in a broken galaxy, that just endeared me to him immediately. And the more we got to write him, the more I enjoyed his philosophy. And I was personally able to write a lot of Jaden episodes.
Okay.
Sometimes it wasn't my choice, sometimes it was.
Mhm.
And by coincidence, everything I've written has like a good chunk of him in it. He is absolutely my favorite character, and he's personified so well by Karim, who is a fantastic actor, a fantastic person, um, who certainly did a lot of work to personify Jaden, but is also a very kind individual himself. So some of it, I will lovingly say, required no acting, because he's such a wonderful, warm-hearted man.
Oh, that's great.
Wow, incredible.
Mhm.
Eric, we are 3 episodes in, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on and just talking to us about your journey, about how Star Trek in general. Um, in a world where the world that we live in now, it's not the best. It's not the world that we all grew up in. So to see Star Trek back on our screens, and like I said earlier, it's so good just to come home, pull the curtains, put the TV on, and know that you feel kind of safe with something like Star Trek. And there's not many TV shows anymore that are made like that. There are TV shows for just being TV shows, and they have other agendas. I think Star Trek and what you guys have written from the episodes that I've seen so far, like you say, we are just in the start of this. I think it's truly incredible. Is it a risk? Yeah, it's always a risk when you take on something like Star Trek. I think from what I've seen so far, my friend, you guys have absolutely knocked it out the park. I think it's really good. I think you should be very proud of the work that you've done, you and your colleagues, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I'm looking forward to the end of this season. Then I can get you back on and we can talk about it. And I can be like, hey Eric, you didn't mention this. But if in the future, if you ever write in an episode where you might need some podcast guys, I might know where you can look. But Eric, thank you so much, my man. I really do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. Really. Thank
No
you.
problem. Anyone wants to check us out that hasn't checked us out before, just go onto YouTube and you type in Completed It Podcast, where you can find me, Neil, and Sash. Most days we try and drop about 2 or 3 episodes a week talking Star Trek, Star Wars, any Superman, Batman, anything, Back to the Future. We've got some good Rocky Balboa stuff coming up soon. If you're a fan of Friends, stick around because we've got a really cool Friends stuff coming in the next weeks. But myself and Neil are going to sit down and review Starfleet Academy this coming weekend. We're going to break down the first 3 episodes that we have seen. I'm really under pressure now because I know that Eric will be watching. But it's been,
Don't hold
but
back.
we'll be back later this weekend. But I really appreciate you, Eric. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Till next time, everybody. Stay safe.